This past Sunday, Jeju Air Flight 7C-2216 crashed while trying to land in Muan, South Korea.
Tragic.
Yeah, it originated in Bangkok and carried 181 people,
Oh,
and only 2 survived.
gosh.
So in this deep dive, we're going to try to piece together what happened
Okay.
using firsthand accounts and early reports.
Right.
But even more importantly, we want to understand the human impact
Right.
of this event.
Of course.
You're likely already aware of the basic facts of the crash,
Yeah.
but I think it's worth taking a moment
Okay.
to really absorb the reality on the ground. Imagine you're at Muan International Airport,
Okay.
not as an observer,
Right.
but as one of the hundreds of family members
Yeah.
desperately awaiting news.
Gosh, I can't imagine.
The tension, the frustration, it's almost a physical presence.
Right.
Some families are even lashing out at officials demanding answers
Yeah.
about why the identification process is taking so long.
Yeah, that's got to be incredibly frustrating,
It is.
especially when you're dealing with that kind of grief and trauma.
Exactly. And it's easy to get lost in the numbers,
Right.
but each number represents a life,
A story.
a story cut short.
Right.
We have Shin Gu-ho,
Okay.
who lost both his grandsons and his son-in-law.
Oh my gosh.
He shared that his grandsons were too scattered to be recognized.
Wow.
His daughter and granddaughter are just utterly shattered.
Yeah, that just speaks to the ripple effect
It does.
of tragedies like this. It's not just the victims,
Right.
but their families, their friends, entire communities
Entire communities.
left to pick up the pieces.
Yeah,
It's a heavy burden to carry.
it is. And sadly, this story is just one among many.
Of course.
We have Mayang Gisu, whose nephew and his 2 sons were returning from a celebratory trip to Thailand
Okay.
after the boys had just finished their college entrance exams.
Oh, wow.
Think about it. A moment of triumph
Yeah.
turned into unimaginable grief.
Yeah, what strikes me is how many of these passengers were likely in a similar mindset,
Yeah.
returning home after vacations or family visits or work trips, each with their own hopes and plans,
Yeah.
all abruptly extinguished.
It's true.
It really underscores the fragility of life
Hmm.
and the suddenness with which things can change.
It really does.
Yeah.
To give you an idea of the scope, most of the victims were in their 40s, 50s, and 60s.
Okay.
But tragically, 5 children under the age of 10 also perished,
Okay.
including a 3-year-old boy.
The loss of young life is always particularly difficult to process.
It is.
It forces us to confront the randomness of fate
Yeah.
and the fact that even the most innocent among us
Right.
aren't immune to tragedy.
They aren't. Then you have Jeongluk Dongmane, a woman who worked in South Korea,
Okay.
returning from a visit with her family in Thailand.
Mm-hmm.
Now her ailing father is left to cope with the loss of his youngest daughter,
Oh, wow.
adding another layer of heartbreak to an already devastating situation.
This highlights the plight of families separated by distance
Yeah.
and economic circumstances.
Right.
So many people work far from home to provide for their loved ones. And these situations can make it even harder to cope with loss and grief.
It's a stark reminder of the human cost of this tragedy.
It is.
But as we delve deeper, we need to shift our focus to the events themselves.
Okay.
We have these incredibly vivid eyewitness accounts
Right.
of the moments leading up to the crash.
Yeah.
Several people reported seeing sparks
Sparks.
on the plane's wing before it attempted to land.
Eyewitness accounts like these are absolutely crucial.
They are.
In aviation accident investigations, they offer valuable firsthand perspectives on the sequence of events that can help investigators piece together what might have gone wrong.
Yeah.
The mention of sparks on the wing immediately raises questions about potential mechanical issues that could have contributed to the crash.
And it wasn't just the sparks. Some witnesses described the plane failing to land on its first attempt.
Really?
It circled back around for another try.
Wow.
And then they saw thick, black smoke billowing into the sky, followed by a deafening explosion.
Oh my.
One witness even compared the initial impact to an oil tanker accident.
Wow. That suggests that the pilots were likely aware of a serious problem
Yeah,
and were desperately trying to regain control.
right.
The fact that the plane crashed into a perimeter wall instead of a residential area
Right.
could indicate that they were trying to avoid a more densely populated area.
Yeah.
That split-second decision may have saved countless lives.
It's a chilling thought.
It is.
But you're right, it does speak to the skill and composure of the pilots
Yeah.
in those final harrowing moments. Now, amidst all this devastation,
Mm-hmm.
there was one glimmer of hope.
Okay.
Remember the two survivors I mentioned?
Yeah.
They were both flight attendants,
Oh, wow.
found in the tail section of the plane.
Okay.
They're seriously injured,
Yeah.
but alive.
It's remarkable that they survived.
It is.
And their survival, while tragic for all those lost,
Right.
provides investigators with a potential goldmine of information. They can offer insights into the events that unfolded in those final moments and potentially shed light on what caused the crash.
And while their testimony will be crucial to the investigation, we can't forget the families gathered at the airport.
Of course.
Clinging to hope as they wait for news.
Right.
They're providing DNA samples to help identify the victims.
Yeah.
And thankfully, the South Korean government has stepped in to provide support,
Okay.
including funeral services and temporary housing.
These are important steps.
They are.
Not just from a logistical standpoint,
Right.
but also from a human perspective.
Absolutely.
Providing practical support and resources allows families to focus on grieving and honoring their loved ones
Right.
without having to worry about immediate burdens.
It's a small comfort in the face of such immense loss.
Yeah.
But it does show a commitment to helping these families navigate this incredibly difficult time.
It does. It's a good first step, but it's just the beginning.
It is.
And we need to make sure that the support continues in the long term. These families are going to be dealing with the aftermath of this tragedy for years to come.
They are.
And they need to know that they're not alone.
We'll be right back after a short break.
While the investigation is just beginning,
Right.
those eyewitness accounts we discussed offer some potential clues.
Yeah.
Remember Yoo Jae-young, the man who reported seeing a spark on the plane's right wing?
I do.
That detail, while seemingly small,
Right.
could point towards a critical mechanical failure.
And that spark wasn't an isolated observation.
Right.
Several other witnesses mentioned seeing it too.
Exactly.
Combined with the failed landing attempt
Yeah.
and the black smoke,
Mm-hmm.
it paints a pretty clear picture
It does.
of a plane in serious distress.
Exactly. And here's where things get a bit more technical.
Okay.
If we're talking about a potential mechanical failure on the wing,
Right.
we have to consider things like the ailerons, flaps, and slats.
Oh.
These are all crucial control surfaces
Right.
that help the pilot maneuver the aircraft. A malfunction in any of these systems
Okay.
could have had disastrous consequences.
So you're saying it's possible
Yeah.
that the pilots lost control because of a mechanical issue?
It's certainly a possibility,
Okay.
and one that investigators will be looking into very carefully.
Right.
They'll be examining the wreckage, analyzing the flight data recorder, often called the black box,
Yeah.
and interviewing the surviving flight attendants
Right.
to try and determine the root cause of the problem.
Speaking of the black box,
Yeah.
can you explain exactly what that is?
Sure.
And why it's so important in investigations like this?
Absolutely.
I imagine some of our listeners might not be familiar with the term.
It's a common misconception that the black box is actually black.
Right.
It's typically bright orange
Oh, really?
to make it easier to locate after a crash.
Okay.
It's actually two separate units.
Okay.
The flight data recorder, which tracks things like altitude, airspeed, and heading,
Right.
and the cockpit voice recorder, which captures all the conversations and sounds in the cockpit.
So it's like a combination of a GPS tracker
Yeah.
and a sound recording studio, all packed into this incredibly durable box.
Exactly. And that durability is crucial
It is.
because the black box needs to withstand extreme forces,
Right.
impact, fire, submersion,
Yeah.
to ensure the data it contains can be retrieved and analyzed.
Right.
That data is invaluable in piecing together the sequence of events
Yeah.
leading up to a crash
Mhm.
and determining what factors contributed to the tragedy.
Makes sense. It's like having a firsthand account of what happened in the cockpit,
It is.
even if no one's there to tell the story.
It's as close as we can get.
Yeah.
And in this case,
Right.
with the added testimony of the surviving flight attendants,
Yeah.
investigators will have a significant amount of information to work with.
That's a good point.
Yeah,
While their survival is a miracle,
it is.
it also presents a unique opportunity for investigators to get a more complete picture of what happened inside the plane.
Yeah.
Do you think their testimony could hold the key to solving this puzzle?
It's certainly possible.
Okay.
They were in a unique position to observe the events as they unfolded,
Right.
and their accounts could provide crucial insights
Yeah.
into the crew's actions, the passengers' reactions,
Mm-hmm.
and any warning signs they might have noticed
Right.
before the crash.
And their survival itself is fascinating.
Yeah.
The fact that they were found in the tail section,
Right.
while the rest of the plane was so heavily damaged,
Yeah.
suggests that the tail might have remained relatively intact
It's
in the impact.
That's a very astute observation.
Okay.
The tail section of an aircraft is
Yeah.
often designed to be more robust
Okay.
than other parts of the fuselage.
Yeah.
It houses the auxiliary power unit,
Mm-hmm.
which provides backup power in
Oh.
case of an emergency.
Right.
And it's generally further away from the initial point of impact in many crash scenarios.
So it's possible that the design of the tail section
Yeah.
played a role in their survival.
It's certainly a hypothesis worth exploring.
Okay.
Investigators will be examining the wreckage closely
Right.
to understand the specific sequence of events during the crash,
Yeah.
including how the plane broke apart
Right.
and the forces that were exerted
Yeah.
on different sections of the fuselage.
It's like a giant tragic jigsaw puzzle.
It is.
And each piece of evidence,
Yeah.
eyewitness accounts, black box data, the wreckage itself,
Mm-hmm.
helps paint a clearer picture of what happened.
And as those pieces come together,
Right.
we'll hopefully get a better understanding
Yeah.
of not only what caused this crash,
Right.
but also what steps we can take to prevent similar tragedies
That's-
from occurring in the future.
Because at the end of the day, that's what really matters, right?
Absolutely.
Finding answers, learning from our mistakes,
Mhm.
and ensuring that the lives lost on Flight 7C-2216 weren't in vain.
Absolutely. Every aviation accident. Yeah,
Is an opportunity to learn and improve.
it is.
By thoroughly investigating these tragedies,
Right.
we can identify systemic issues,
Yeah.
enhance safety protocols, and
Yeah.
ultimately
Yeah.
make flying safer for everyone.
Absolutely.
But we can't forget the human element
Right.
behind those statistics, behind the wreckage.
Yeah.
Our families grappling with the immeasurable pain of loss.
You're right. It's easy to get caught up in the technical details and the investigation, but we
Yeah.
have to remember that this is, first and foremost, a human tragedy.
Absolutely.
Hundreds of lives were lost,
Yeah.
and countless others have been irrevocably changed.
And as we continue our deep dive into this crash,
Right.
we need to keep those families at the forefront of our mind.
Absolutely.
Their stories, their grief, their resilience. These are the things that truly matter.
And those stories, as heartbreaking as they are,
Yeah.
remind us of the importance of compassion, empathy, and support.
We need to be there for these families, not just in the immediate aftermath,
Right.
but in the long days, weeks, and months ahead.
Because the journey of healing from a tragedy like this is a marathon, not a sprint.
Yeah.
It requires patience, understanding, and a commitment to standing by those who are hurting.
And as we wrap up this part of our deep dive,
Okay.
I want to take a moment to acknowledge the incredible resilience of the human spirit.
Yeah.
Even in the face of unimaginable loss,
Right.
people find ways to cope, to support each other,
Mm.
and to rebuild their lives.
It's a testament to our capacity for love, compassion, and hope.
It is.
Even in the darkest of times,
Yeah.
these qualities shine through, reminding us that even though we may be broken,
Right.
we are not defeated.
It's hard to even imagine the emotional turmoil at Muan International Airport.
Yeah.
Families are not only grappling with the shock of the crash, but also the agonizing wait for news.
Right.
It's a scene filled with raw grief and uncertainty.
And it's in times like these that the role of authorities becomes even more crucial.
Yeah.
They're tasked with the incredibly difficult job of identifying the victims,
Right.
a process made even more challenging by the condition of the remains,
I imagine.
while simultaneously providing support to the families.
It's a truly Herculean task,
Yeah,
both logistically and emotionally.
it is.
We've heard reports that the South Korean government is offering funeral services
Yeah.
and even temporary housing to the families.
Those are good first steps.
Yeah, they are.
But it's important to remember that it's a long road ahead.
Absolutely.
These families will need ongoing support
Right.
for months, if not years to come.
It's also worth noting the collection of DNA samples at the airport.
Yeah, that's a crucial step.
It is.
And accurately identifying the victims.
Right.
And providing some semblance of closure to their families.
That closure, while undeniably painful, is a vital part of the healing process.
Absolutely. It allows them to begin to accept the reality of their loss.
Right.
And to start moving forward.
And it's a journey they don't have to face alone.
Right. There's a whole network of support available to them.
There is.
From grief counselors and support groups to the compassion and solidarity of their community.
That's true.
It's often in these moments of collective grief
Yeah,
that we witness humanity at its best.
absolutely.
People coming together, offering comfort,
Right.
a listening ear, a shoulder to cry on.
Yeah, it's a powerful reminder that even in the darkest of times, we are not alone.
Exactly.
That sense of shared humanity,
Yeah.
of collective support,
Right.
is crucial.
It is.
It can make the unbearable a little more bearable,
Absolutely.
and the impossible seem just a bit less daunting.
This tragedy has reverberated far beyond the immediate families and community.
It really has.
It's a stark reminder of the inherent risks
Yeah.
associated with air travel, a
Absolutely.
mode of transportation that many of us take for granted.
It's true. We step onto these metal birds, trusting that we'll reach our destination safely. But events like this force us to confront the reality that no matter how advanced our technology, how skilled our pilots, accidents can still happen.
And that brings us to a crucial question.
Okay?
What can we learn from this tragedy?
Yeah.
How can we, as individuals and as a society,
Right.
better support those who have experienced similar losses?
It's a question that weighs heavily on all of us. While we can't bring back those who were lost,
Right.
we can strive to create a world where those left behind are met with unwavering compassion, understanding, and support.
We can also honor the memory of those who perished
Yes.
by working tirelessly to improve aviation safety and prevent future tragedies.
Their loss should not be in vain.
Exact.
And with that solemn thought, we come to the end of our deep dive into the Jeju Air crash.
It's been a difficult one,
It has been.
but an important one.
Absolutely.
We've explored the technical aspects of the crash,
Right.
but more importantly,
Yeah.
we've delved into the human impact of this tragedy.
It's crucial to remember the lives lost
Absolutely.
and the families forever changed by this event.
As we move forward, let's all commit to supporting those affected,
Yeah.
learning from this tragedy, and working together to prevent such heartbreaking events in the future.